I'm sorry.
It's now 8 o'clock.
Okay, cool. All right. So everyone is off mute because the discussion is going to be around um, based upon the last five things that we did, which you may not are, but remember we did words. Um, we did specific words related to Black African descendants. We did words related to um, the Garden of Eden located on the continent that is currently called Africa, and currently called because that landmass has been called other things. And then we got into last evening the divine's spiritual piece. And tonight we're just going to work through um, the divine spiritual air piece. So here's the conversation. I'm going to make a statement and we're going to react to the statement based upon what you think, what you believe, what you sense, what you think, and then we're going to end up with what we know that we don't necessarily think about intentionally. But tonight we're going to intentionally think about what we know that makes the difference and answers the question that Brother Lewis asked before with all of these different things going on and the amount of chaos going on, the amount of segregation, both intra and inter human. How do we get past that? How do we get to the one? So, what we're going to discuss tonight together is how do we get to the one, not based upon what someone says, but based upon what each of you know within the context of the discussion tonight. So, here's the statement. Everything that we need to know to become one, we already know. We may not have intentionally identified it as what has divinely, spiritually created us as one. Okay, so how does that work? What you see on the screen is the essence of the manifestation of a supreme creator that is not human. We're not talking about anthropomorphication. We're talking about what is, what exists. Each day when you go out, you can know what you see. And what you see and what you know and what exists for all who are, quote, human. And I'm going to be using the word human and not male or female in the beginning. So here are the things that we know. Anyone that has a difference in whether or not you know this because you think about it or you know it because it exists, but this is what you should know because you exist. One, there is a supreme creator that has been called many things by many cultures in many places throughout not only this planet, but other planet where there may exist other living organism that may not be called human. Human is an English word. There may be another word for it in other cultures, in other places, in other spaces, and in other times. So, one, Is there anyone that disagrees with the use of the word human? So we're not speaking of male, female, so that we can speak to the one human race as created by the divine creator.
No, I don't have any issues.
Anyone else?
No.
Okay. So
No.
the one,
No.
so,
No.
okay,
Adora.
good. All right. So the oneness that we will begin with in the Western world, and right now we're working in the Western world, in the Western terminology, in the Western epistemology based on the Greeks and what the Greeks quote brought forward, and how, when, what, and where the Greeks did what they did. The Western world, which we are in fact, um, exists within that particular space. What I'd like you to look, everything I'm going to say is for you to agree or disagree based upon what's on the screen. That supreme entity, supreme power, that supreme force, without going into the anthropomorphification, is that as to whether that is a he or she. We know it exists based upon what is. So now let's back up a second. Now that we know that, we don't think it, how do we prove that we know it? You don't have to have faith in it. You don't have to believe it and have a belief in it, because you can't live without it.
Mhm.
And the mere fact that you can't live without it proves that it exists, so long as you can't change it by getting rid of it and still exists. I don't want to be confusing stuff that's confusing. Anything I say that's confusing, let me know. Is that anything confusing about that?
No, but can you repeat it one more time?
Okay. What each of you are going to individually prove, not based upon what I say, but based upon what you are not going to have faith in, not what you're going to have a belief in, but what you know exists, even though you may not have intentionally thought about it, you know it, otherwise you would not exist.
Mhm.
Okay. Do I need to explain that more?
Yes.
All right.
Basically, what is the it that you are referring to?
Okay. So, Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
okay, here's a question for you. Do you, William Moore, exist as a human being at this moment?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
do you, as a human being at this moment, can you verify that you were born of a she and he and the spirit of the three?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have a question about Mrs. Moore's answers?
No.
All right. So let's go to the next step. Mrs. Moore has stated that she knows she is. That's one. Mrs. Moore, did you, as a human being, give birth to another human being?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore, do you know in all of your education and in all of your experiences, know of any male anywhere that you've been that has duplicated what you've done in terms of giving birth to another human being?
No.
Okay. This is more. And having given birth to a human being, what is the one thing that that human being had to have in order to live?
Breath.
Breath. Did everyone hear what she said?
Yes.
Okay. In order for you to give birth to another human being that had to have breath to live, was it necessary for your egg and your sperm to, quote, come together and some force through an alchemy process allow the, the creation of this being that had breath when it arrived?
Yes.
If you had to name that breath, what would that breath be?
Air.
I'm sorry,
Air.
air. And if the air existed, what is it that exists in the context of the air that maintains life?
Repeat that. What
You
does
said you
exist
said
within the
you
context?
you said breath, right? Which is
Yes.
correct. But that breath exists simultaneously with what force that allowed the child to come forth and live?
The divine creator.
And how would the divine creator manifest itself within that breath with something that you now know, something you speak to, but not as normally associated with the divine creator? What is it that came with the breath?
Life.
And life is maintained how? Before the hospital, before the doctor, in the process of birth. What is that? What is that that you would name? How would you name it, given the terminology that we have in the Western world? How would you name that?
Germinate.
Okay. So let me give you a different word. You said life, right?
Right.
I would say life force, right? What is the one word that you would use for the life force that you deal with within the context of your religion?
Divine belief.
One word.
Belief. Divine. I'm sorry. Divine.
God,
Somebody said another word.
Would it be
Scripture.
fertilization?
God,
Okay.
Oh.
All of that is connected, but there is a word that you use constantly in the context of each human being with the breath that is
Oh,
required for the breath to be maintained in order to maintain life. What is that?
birth.
You can call it Phaeton, which is a spirit. That's the Greek word for spirit.
Spirit is the word.
Oh, let Miss Moore said that.
No, no, she said life.
Oh, okay.
And she said birth. Spirit is the correct word. So here is, I want you to think about this, mull over
Okay.
it. Mrs. Moore says, yes, there was a sperm and an egg. Two, there was a spirit that is in alchemy that caused the egg and the sperm to come to life to breathe. You do not have life without the spirit, and you do not have the spirit without the breath, the air, right? So
Right.
if you get rid of if you quote, pinch the baby's nose, put your hand over their mouth, and they can't breathe, what happens?
Suffocate.
Does anyone differ with what Mrs. Moore said?
Mm-mm.
So if the air goes away, what happens to the spirit?
It brought somebody.
The spirit will then leave the body.
Mm.
Spirit leaves the body. So the spirit and the air are simultaneously one. You cannot have one without the other in terms of how we're constructing this human within the Western culture and Western terminology. So go back to the beginning. The supreme creator creates the human. The human within the context of responsibility and power together can bring forth life. But of the togetherness, which one can determine whether there is life or death?
Out of the two human entities,
Yes,
correct?
The
She.
mother, the she.
Mhm.
she. All right. So second only to the supreme creator of all that is, has been, and will be, the only entity that can make a decision independent of the male is life and death only, because only the she knows. He does not know unless the she says, I am, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Does anyone disagree? Okay.
No.
So we get to be one. This goes back to Brother Lewis's statement a couple of weeks ago in describing all of this fit that's going on in its chaos. In order for us to be one, we have to be one in what?
Spirit.
We have to be one in spirit. Sometimes you can hear people say things such, I don't feel you, right? It's kind of a comment. What does it mean if you say to someone, I'm not feeling that? I don't, what do you think that means?
Anybody can answer that?
Anybody?
Okay. What that means is there's no agreement. which means there's no reality. And where there is no agreement, there's no cohesiveness upon which to walk toward that final goal, because it takes two to make that a reality. But after that reality is agreed upon and consummated through marriage or connection, then that moves forward either in Isfet or Mayat.
Right. Anyone else have a different way of looking at it?
No.
Before Mayat, before Taiseti, before Cush, before Kemet, before Nubia, the supreme force was present. Second to the supreme force, humankind was formed. Third, humankind was formed, and within the context of humankind, one was gifted with the ability of life and death before anyone else. That would be she is. Does anyone have any conflict with that statement?
No.
No.
Okay. So now let's deal with power, because she isn't, according to who?
Power. Religions.
Power, religion. And who is controlling power and religion?
He. People. Man.
Hmm.
Humans.
Yeah, you said it correctly. He. Why is that?
Because it's off balance.
Because it's not balanced. Right. Power as perceived, strength and power can be different. Now, what do I mean by that? Mrs. Moore, at your healthiest, your youngest, before you became pregnant, could you power lift 250 pounds?
No.
Okay. Do you think if your husband worked out, he could power lift 250 pounds?
Yes.
Now, let me reverse the question. The two of you came together. The decision was to have a child. You informed your husband of your being with child only after you had been notified that you were with child. Is that true?
True.
Okay. Did you carry your child for 9 months?
No.
How many months?
8 months.
8 months. Did you work during the 8 months?
Yes.
Did you cook during the 8 months?
Yes.
Did you wash clothes during the 8 months?
Yes.
So only thing I'm getting at here is strength and power can be different based on context. Okay? Because to carry a life, to work, to cook and clean and drive is not something that a power lifter can do, and the power lifter he has not been gifted with the strength to do what she does.
Correct.
Anyone differ with that?
No.
So here's the orientation. This is where brainwashing comes in, and this is where brainwashing started. Brainwashing starts when you, by definition, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Berry, can you
Yes.
read the definition of brainwashing?
Yes. Did somebody drop off?
I'm not sure, but if you read brainwashing, it still will be recorded, I hope.
Okay, I apologize.
I know. I just want to make sure everything is
Brainwashing, a forcible indoctrination to induce someone to give up basic political, social, or religious beliefs and attitudes and to accept contrasting regiment ideas. This was first used in 1950.
okay. So now we know it's older than that, right?
Right.
How many books within religious contexts have been written by women that you are aware of?
None.
None.
I'm aware.
I would say none.
Okay. So you have not been able to tell your story from the beginning.
Correct.
So your story is told by he, not by the human part of she.
Correct.
Does everyone understand how that works? Okay.
Yes.
Now, I want to make sure I stop right here because this is the differentiation before we flip back to present. One, we are one in the spirit of the Creator. We know we are one because each of us is a spiritual entity framed in human form and need the breath of air to be alive. Are we in agreement in that statement?
Agreed.
So now we have to deal with the is fit. And when did that take place in terms of what was designed and in some religious books actually admit, but then changes it to fit the he versus the she. So we are not in balance, and the brainwashing starts. The brainwashing is, according to the Western definition, has been read. Now, would you read the deep definition of menticide, which is different, but read both. Read brainwashing and then read menticide.
Okay, you want me to go back to brainwashing?
Yes.
Okay. I gotta go back because I started with menticide. All right. Brainwashing. Brainwashing is a forcible indoctrination
Stop, stop,
to
stop,
induce
stop,
someone.
stop, stop. Go back to the first word.
A forcible
Stop right there. I want you to keep this in mind. Force, terror, rape, murder, degrade, debase, replace the thinking of a person. So continue. Just remember the word force. Okay, you
Okay.
complete it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
A forcible indoctrination to induce someone to give up basic political, social, or religious beliefs and attitudes, and to accept contrasting, regimented ideas first used in 1950.
Okay.
Menticide. Are y'all ready for that one?
Yes.
A systematic and intentional undermining of a person's conscious mind. Synonym, brainwashing. First used is not showing me when it was first used.
Okay.
So it's not showing me the etymology.
Okay. So if we go, I'm going to go back to the again and again. The supreme being, the supreme force, called by many names in many cultures, is responsible for, on this planet, in the Western world, for humankind. Humankind has two parts, a she and a he. She was gifted from the supreme force, the supreme entity, with some of the same powers of the supreme force, the supreme entity, which is to be able to bring, not only bring forth life, but to determine when to tell there is life and when to decide to bring forth life. Full power, full stop. Now, does anybody want to discuss that gift?
That is the gift that the supreme power has bestowed upon the she.
Correct.
The she has that supreme power in order to reproduce, which was given to her. And she also has the power to determine whether or not that life will be brought forth.
Correct. Spot on. That creates, I'm going to give you a couple of words. There's a piece coming out that we're going to deal with once we go back, not tonight, but I'm going to give it to you tonight. The Mississippi, in the dictionary, what is the definition of FEAR, fear?
F-E-A-R.
Yes.
I'm doing that from this part from my phone, so hold on, everybody.
No problem.
All right, fear. An unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger.
So go
A
back to
particular
go back to the first word in brainwashing. What was that first word?
forcible,
Forcible. So if you are in constant fear because of previous force trauma, to use the power that has been granted you by the Supreme Creator, then everything is out of balance
Mhm.
because the fear is brought by the he that is desirous of power over the she, which is an anomaly.
True.
Okay. All right. How do we get to that space? That space is using that same word, fear. There's false education accepted as religiously real according to those who rule. Should I repeat that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, going back to the force of brainwashing of the female is based on a false education accepted as religiously real. That's the current reality because everyone accepts it. And the word that goes with that is they have been enculturated. You only look up enculturated and define that word, please.
Mm-hmm. Meaning, not theology. All right, so let me see. I'm gonna have to be enculturated means to integrate and adapt something, typically religious teachings, ideas, or practices, into a specific culture so that it resonates with the local people while still preserving its core meaning.
I'm going to reread that again.
Okay. To be enculturated means to integrate and adapt something, typically religious teachings,
Oh,
ideas, or practice.
stop.
Okay.
What was that first word you used?
Religious teachings
Religious
or religious.
teachings. Again, you want to focus on that because the moral standard has been coupled with the legal standard in order to keep the she in third place, not second to the divine creator force as gifted and as is not something we think we know. That's the reality. So when we're talking, now we're going to come all the way forward. And I'm going to make this statement because this is a truism based upon best academic practice models for Black students. Until the mother, the queen on the chessboard, convinces the pawns on the chessboard that they can be knights, bishops, and kings, they will always be pawns.
Mm.
Because only the she, i.e., queen of the home, can make that happen if they are in their right mind. if they are in their right mind. If you remember the cover of Carter G. Woodson's book, it had the female on lockdown. Remember that?
Right.
Not just lockdown, but a brass all the way around the brain with a lock on it and no key. And the key is knowing that the power of the she is a direct gift from the supreme entity, force, power that is the creator of all that is, all that has been, and all that we are aware of and all that we're not aware of. So if you come all the way from how we become one in spirit, we are one because we all have to breathe. Trump has to breathe. He may be president, he may be evil, but he has to breathe. And the minute he stops breathing, the spirit will leave his body and he will be dead. Trump was born of a woman, brainwashed by a father. So when we get back to best academic practice models, and we talk about the 6 schools, and we say that from pre-womb, that's recognizing that the she has the power to affect the child even before they're pregnant. Because they have to prepare their body to be pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we think through the process, we have to keep certain things in mind. We have been, quote, brutalized, traumatized, degraded, debased, not just as the people, but specifically, it was necessary to dominate the woman so that she would produce more pawns than knights.
Mm.
It is impossible to pass on to the child that which is on lockdown because of being forced to accept a subordinate position that was not intended by the divine creator. Now, that's where we are right now. And if I make this a reality check in terms of where we are, the best academic practice models is not in play right now, 2 years out, because a male made a decision not to do something. And Black children specifically are behind because a Black male decided that they were not first. That's where we are today, the 11th of July, 2026. It's not that we don't have the power. It's not that the gifts were not bestowed. It is not that we're not all equal. Every person on this earth that is known as human takes a certain number of breaths every day, all day, even when asleep. And the spirit rise and fall with every breath. No breath, no spirit. No spirit, no breath. That is a direct connection to the supreme force that decides how much time you have and how much time you do not have. So on the 23rd of this month, we're going to find out whether we're dealing with pawns of the system, whether we're dealing with knights of the systems, queens and kings of the system. Those are your potentates. So, how are we one? We're one in breath. We're one in spirit. All across the entire board, according to the Supreme Being, made that equal from the beginning. Anyone that breathes, anyone that has a spirit. Now, whether they're evil or good, that's different. But in terms of the supreme force, we were brought into this world with what we need. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions about the discussion how we move forward?
No.
Okay. All right. Pamela,
Yes.
I'm not sure. I didn't see you when we went out. Any questions from you?
No, I received the truth.
All right. Miss Etheridge?
I am clear.
Mrs. Dunlap?
All clear.
Okay. President Lewis?
I really enjoy the exchange of information about our reality. And there's some things that are in my mind, but I'm going to just think about them a little bit because there's a balance that's spoken of that has to be maintained, and for all of it to work as it was intended by the divine supreme being. And that balance and that order has to be maintained. So that's just part of something what I'm thinking about, but I don't have no disagreement per se with the whole presentation because those are definite, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to deal with the actual facts, the actual facts. So I can't argue with the facts, but there are just some philosophical things that was going through my mind as I was absorbing.
Okay. I'd like to do a debrief tomorrow, so if everyone would think about it, and if you have things in your mind, because if we're going to run a campaign with or without the NAACP, there are certain things we have to know that are not up for debate. It's not up for debate whether or not you breathe. It is not up for debate if your spirit leaves your body, what happens to the frame? And if the spirit leaves the body, it takes the air with it. Until someone brings forth something other than a female on Earth at this juncture in time that can be verified, validated, and authenticated, only the she, at the end of the day, can give birth. Only the she is notified first, and only the she can decide based on that whether they want to tell anybody. That's why the she is so critical to the pawns. And right now, whether it's W. Du Bois, Carla Line, Carter G. Woodson, and Gugu Atiango, Chinwezu, and decolonization of the mind. They're all saying the same thing. And so the key is going to be how this is going to work. But we need to be clear beyond a shadow of any doubt. There is no book that is currently on the face of the planet that they allow us to know, except for those that they stole from Taiseti, Kush, Kemet, and Nubia, that's currently in the European libraries, and they're still trying to decipher. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. It is as with the Dogon, why they knew the Cyrus A and B were present from a cosmological standpoint without the benefit of a Hubble telescope. It is what it is. People can debate it, but it is what it is. Okay, Darla, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. It just switched over. Give me 1 second. I thought you were coming to an end.
No problem. We have plenty of time.
I found the ancestors walk with power, protect with wisdom, and guide with love. Through tolerance and unity, their blessings endure forever. Ashe.
Okay.
Ashe. Good night.
Ashe.
Anyone, I'd like to do a debrief tomorrow for anyone that would like to debrief, so we can take the lessons, switch it to best academic practice campaign, and make it work.
Okay.
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 Okay. Thanks.
See
Night,
you all
everybody.
tomorrow.
Good night.